All right, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. If people join us a little bit late, that's totally fine. We'll be able to pick up and just join us where we are. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us here at CodeHS for today's hour of code using Tracy the Turtle. My name is Rachel Devaney. I am a curriculum developer here at CodeHS. I've worked with both math and English, and then I recently made the switch to computer science as I really started to think about how important this skill is for students. So I am so excited that you're here and going to join us for a little bit of coding today. Before we get coding, which I promise we will, I wanted to share a little bit about how computer programming is being used in today's world. Because a lot of people, when they see like computer programming or computer science, they think of an image like this one, right? Someone sitting in front of a computer, staring at the screen, just like typing lines of code all by themselves. But in reality, computer science and programming is used across industries in a wide variety of ways, right? It's not just for people who are working at Google or who are designing video games, which those things exist, of course, but it's also for anyone. So learning the basics of programming is not just for programmers, it's for anyone who wants to be successful in today's world, or especially anyone who wants to like do something creative and innovative and make a really positive change. And so I want to share just two quick examples of some ways that I think programming is being used in some really awesome ways before we get into coding. So the first example I'm going to share with you is this woman, Katia Vega. And she is using programming in the beauty industry of all places. And she's created this type of industry that she has named it beauty technology. And so it takes things like cosmetics, like fingernail polish, hair accessories, tattoos, eyelashes, eyeliner. It takes these things and integrates them with technology. So in this picture, you might see some like really snazzy nails that look like just really snazzy nails. There's actually technology integrated into them. So the technology in there is similar to the technology that you see on like a bus pass when you get on the bus and you like swipe your card, or you open the door with a little like device that unlocks the door. Like imagine being able to do that with your nails, like pretty cool. So a really great example of how we're using technology to really innovatively think about how we can change the way we use everyday items. Another example that I absolutely love is by Emma Yang. And Emma Yang is a senior. She's a senior right now. And recently she created this really awesome app called Timeless. And this app, the goal is to empower patients with Alzheimer's to stay connected with their loved ones. And so Emma probably spent some time right in front of a computer screen coding. However, she also spent time like with a team really getting to know what these people, her target audience, like people with Alzheimer's, what they need, what their loved ones need. And so there's just so much that goes into building really great mobile apps and really great technology beyond just like sitting in front of a computer. So both Emma and Katya at one point learned how to code in their journey towards these really innovative ideas. And so no matter what job you want to be, if you want to be a programmer, that's great. If you don't want to be a programmer, that's also great. Knowing how to code is so important in today's world. And so I'm so excited that you're here today to learn a little bit about programming to start your journey on thinking about how you could use that in your future. So today we are going to be learning the basics of Python with Tracy the Turtle. I'm going to give us a quick introduction into how this works, some basic commands that we can use with Tracy. So for right now, you're just going to follow along with me. You don't need to be logged in or in CodeHS or anything like that on a specific activity. So right now, just follow along with me, and then I will give you kind of specific directions on where to go when it is time. Okay, so without any further ado, let's get started so that you can get coding soon. Okay, so programming or coding is giving commands to a computer. And Tracy is going to be our computer today. So today we are going to work with Tracy. Tracy is this really snazzy turtle here, and she's going to listen to our commands. And Tracy speaks Python. And lucky for us, Python is a really great programming language for beginners, and it's used across the tech industry in organizations that you're probably familiar with, like Instagram, YouTube, Google, and us here at CodeHS. And so this is Tracy in Tracy's world. She loves her world. It's very nice. It is a grid world. And so in Tracy's grid world, we have x-axes and y-axes. And Tracy always starts in the middle at 0, 0, and she always starts facing right. So in Tracy's grid world, the x-axis goes from negative 200 to positive 200, and the y-axis goes from negative 200 to positive 200 as well. And so if we wanted to dig in a little bit more to better understand Tracy's grid world, we can look at the different corners and see what the different coordinates are there. So the top left-hand corner is going to be negative 200, positive 200. The bottom left-hand corner is going to be negative 200, negative 200. Top right-hand corner is going to be 200, 200. And the bottom right-hand corner is going to be 200, negative 200. Now there's a bunch of numbers here, so don't calm down, don't freak out. Really the main thing that we want to think about here is how big is Tracy's world, right? And so if we think about these numbers, negative 200 to positive 200, we can see that the width of Tracy's world is going to be 400 pixels. And then the height of Tracy's world is going to be 400 pixels as well. Okay, so here's Tracy's world. We know that she lives in this really wonderful grid world that she likes to, hang out in. And so our goal is going to be to move Tracy around. And by moving Tracy around, we can draw things on her canvas. And so we move Tracy around by giving her commands. And so the first command that we're going to learn is forward. And so here it says forward, and this moves Tracy a specific distance forward, obviously. And then in the parentheses, we have a number, and that number is going to say how far we want Tracy to go. Now, before I talk about a couple of other commands, I want to highlight that Tracy, just like computers, are super picky. And we have to give Tracy commands in a very specific way or she's not going to understand us. So let's look at this forward command a little bit closely to make sure we understand all the different ways we have to talk to Tracy. So first of all, it's all lowercase, so no capital letters. There are no spaces. And then there are parentheses, and in the parentheses is a number. The number can be any number, right, between negative 200 and 200. But it has to be a number. So if we do something like have a capital F, or if we have a space between forward and our parentheses, or if we don't include a number, Tracy is not going to understand us. And so it might take you a little bit of time to get used to writing in this way because it's so specific, but that's okay, right? You're learning a new language and it takes practice and time. And I promise it will start to feel natural once you get the hang of it. Okay, so what if we want Tracy to do something other than go forward or turn a different way? Luckily, we have some left and right commands that we can use. And so we can use the left and right command to turn Tracy to the left and the right. And we put a 90 inside of those parentheses to tell Tracy that we want her to move 90 degrees to the left or 90 degrees to the right. All right, there are two more commands that we're going to go over before we get into some practice. We have the pin up and the pin down command. So the pin up command tells Tracy that we don't want her to leave a trail as she draws, as she moves forward. So we look over here, we can see the pin up and then the forward 100. So Tracy will pick up the pen and then move forward 100 without leaving a trail behind her. And then the pin down command will tell us that, hey, Tracy, we actually do want you to start drawing now. So if you give her the pin down command and then tell her to move forward, she will draw as she moves forward those 100 pixels. A key thing to note here is that Tracy always starts with her pin down. So just like Tracy always starts at 0, 0 right in the middle of our canvas, she always starts with her pin down. So if we want to position her somewhere else without having her draw to start our program, we have to use the pin up command first. Okay, and those are the basics. Those are the commands that we are going to be using to start our programming today. And so our first program together is going to be to draw a letter on the canvas, and we're going to draw a T for Tracy. And so hang with me, you don't need to be going anywhere yet, but I am going to take us to the code editor. So here we are in our code editor. This is actually where we write our code. So on this side, we write our code, and then over here, this is where we run our code, where we tell Tracy, hey, I want you to do this, and then Tracy executes the commands that we tell her to do. So just to give you a feel for this, let's tell Tracy to move forward 100. Let's see what that does. Great, she moves forward 100. Notice that she does draw the line, right? Because we haven't given her the pin up command. She always starts with her pin down. Okay, so let's actually see what happens when we just change it to forward 50. Beautiful. So she just goes half the distance. Okay, so that's the basics of how this works. So now let's actually get into drawing our letter T. So I know that Tracy starts here. And I'm going to think you can be as precise and mathematical about this as you want, or you could just use trial and error. Whichever way works for you is fine, right? We're just like having fun and practicing here. And so I'm going to think about it. If I know the canvas is 400 pixels, I want the T to be pretty big. So let's make the T be 200 pixels. So she starts in the middle, and I'm going to have her move a little bit down this way. So the first thing I'm going to do is I don't want her to draw anything yet. So I'm going to use the pen up command so that she doesn't leave a trail. And then I'm going to have her turn right 90 degrees. Let's just run our code and see what that looks like. Great, she's facing down. So now I'm going to have her move forward 100. Let's just run that again to make sure that's working. Beautiful. So now I'm ready for her to turn around. So I'm going to give her the right 90 command twice. And now I'm ready for her to actually start drawing. So I'm going to use the pen down command. Let's just run that to make sure she's facing the right way. Beautiful. Now let's have her do, I said 200. So let's have her draw that first T, that first part of the T. Ah, fantastic. That's looking great. And so now I'm going to have her move over this way to draw like the top letter of the T. So let's turn her left. And then let's see, if I made this 200, let's make the top 200 too. So half of that's going to be 100. So let's have her move forward 100. Let's run that again. Notice how I'm running my code multiple times as I go. This is a really great practice that all programmers use just to make sure that we're not making any mistakes or Tracy's facing the way that we want her to. Because it is really easy. If you forget something, as I mentioned before, Tracy won't understand you. Okay, cool. So she's facing this way. We need to get her to face the other direction. I can use right twice or I can use left twice. I'm going to go ahead and use left twice just to switch it up. There we go. Let's run that again just to make sure she's facing the right direction. Beautiful. Ah, fantastic. So now let's have her move forward to draw that other part of the T. Let's see, we should be good to go. Oh, rats. So she didn't draw the full part of the T up. That's because I did 100 instead of 200. So the cool thing about programming is that if you make a mistake, it's super easy to go back and fix it. And so I can just easily change that 100 to a 200. Let's see where we get here. And perfect. So Tracy has drawn her T, and with all of those commands, she's looking great. Okay, and so that is the basics of how we can give commands to Tracy to, yes, Tracy is a turtle and Tracy is a human. She's basically like our best friend right now. So I appreciate that comment for sure. Okay, so we've given commands to Tracy to draw a T on the canvas, which is great. So now it's going to be your turn. And so what I'm going to do, let me go ahead and throw this up here. And so if you have a CodeHS account, go ahead and get logged in. If you don't, that's totally fine. But if you do, it'll be really helpful because you can save your work as you go, which is really nice. I'm going to put a link in the chat, and this will take you to the activity that you're going to start with. And so you're going to start with this activity that's titled Draw Your First Letter. So I'm going to give you about 30 seconds or so to make your way to this link, to this activity, and then I'll give you just a couple more directions. Okay, so you should be at something that looks like this. I'm just going to quickly orient you to how you'll kind of work through this hour of code. So you'll see that the exercise tab gives you the directions for the directions that you're going to be working with. So you're going to be drawing the first letter of your name and be creative with it. It can look any way that you want it to look. That's the cool thing about this hour of code is that you have the opportunity to be as creative as you want to be. You'll write your code here. You'll submit and continue once you're done with your code. If you are not logged into a CodeHS account, it is so important that you copy your code before you move on, or else you're not going to be able to access it. This code does build on itself. So you're going to draw your first letter, and then you're going to draw another letter that kind of builds on that, and then you're going to be able to add some color to it. So you will be building on your code. So copy your code so that you can paste it into the next exercise before you move on. And then down here, you can get a feel for where you are in the hour of code. So this is where you are. If you want to go back and look at the example that I just gave, you can click Tracy's first letter and take a look at that. Otherwise, you're just free to move forward on your own. Everyone works at different paces and everyone might want to go into some depth and some others might just want to move on. So I'm going to stop talking soon, I promise. But I'm going to give you the opportunity to move at your own pace starting from here on out. We will come together at the end. So be ready to kind of share your program if you would like to. I'd love to see some of the great letters that y'all are making. If you have questions throughout this time, that's great, right? Questions are fantastic and they help us learn. So you have a couple of different ways that you can ask questions. You can ask them in the Zoom Q&A or the chat, or you can ask privately to your teacher through the Zoom chat, however you want to do it. If you're logged into CodeHS, you can share the link to your assignment and that'll help us see where you are in your code and give you any extra support that you need there. All right, so you have a good amount of time to continue working through today's hour of code. I'm going to stop talking and give you a chance to get started. So have fun coding and please, we are here for any questions that you have and we'll come back together at the end. All right, really quickly, I can tell that y'all are doing some really great work right now working on your letters. Hopefully you've got to move on to the bubble letter exercise and maybe even to the color where you add color in. We have about 15 minutes left, and one of my favorite things about this hour of code is that it's really creative and everyone's letter could look super different. So if you would love to, if you'd like to share your program with us, we would love to kind of showcase it at the end. You can only do this if you're logged into a CodeHS account. So if you're logged into CodeHS, go ahead and copy and paste the URL to your program into the chat, and we can share it and do a showcase towards the end if you feel comfortable doing so. But we would love to see some of the great letters and programs that y'all have worked on. Throw those in the chat, and then we'll come back together in about 7-ish minutes. All right, we are coming towards the end of our time together. So I do want to share some of the awesome programs some of y'all have put in the chat. And if you are finished with yours, I want to throw it in the chat real fast. You're welcome to do so, and I'll pull it up at the end. All right. So I want to share, first of all, Misa's. So Misa drew the letter L. Let's take a look at it. Awesome. I love this. And I also, Misa, you did a really great job using the pin up command, making sure Carol doesn't draw a line at the very end, messing up your beautiful block letter L. Really nice job. 23 solid lines of code. Great job there. All right, and let's take a look at another one. Medina is awesome. She drew an M. Let's take a look at hers. Look at Tracy go. Zoom in. Awesome, Medina. This is a really great program. One of the things that I love about yours is that you tried to see what would happen if you used different numbers in the turn commands. So instead of just doing right 90, you were able to do diagonal lines by using right 45 and right 135. Not to mention, as Emma just pointed out, some really great geometry there, figuring out the angles that you wanted to use. So really great job there too, Medina. Love seeing all of that. All right, and we have one more that we're going to showcase unless anyone else wants to throw theirs in the chat real fast. Let's look at Romel's. All right. Oh, look at that blue. Beautiful. All right, and there's Romel's. Great job, Romel. I love the use of color. The blue is a solid choice. You can't go wrong with blue, of course. And look at so many lines of code, 30 really great lines of code. I think it's interesting how you started the H here. I think one of my favorite things about this specific exercise is that you can start the letter wherever you want, right? You could have started up here, you could have started down here, but you chose to start in the middle, which I think is a super interesting choice and really great job. And you should be proud of the work that you did today. Everyone should, even if you didn't showcase your work. I'm sure you did a really great job with your program, and I'm really excited that you were able to kind of play around and get into some Python today. So if you're wondering what is next, if you did not quite finish, that's totally fine. You'll be able to come back to this link that I shared before and continue working. If you were logged into your CodeHS account, you'll be able to pick up where you left off. If you weren't logged into your CodeHS account or a CodeHS account, you won't be able to access your previous work, but you'll still be able to continue working. Just kind of remember where you were and just keep working there. All you have to do is come back to that link. And there were some extra exercises. If you didn't get to the end to see some of the other cool stuff that you can do, I encourage you to do that. It's a really great way to continue learning more code, learning more Python, and seeing some of the really cool things that you can do on CodeHS and just in coding in general. Yeah, filling the letters in with color is really cool, Misa. If you didn't get to that, I encourage you to get there because it is just like a really nice, fun thing to add to your bubble letter. And it's pretty easy too. It's just a quick, easy command. All right. So that's it. That's what we had for today. I really appreciate you joining us for this hour of code. Have a wonderful day and keep coding.